I want to first say that I recorded this video the week Obelisk came out, so there is going to be some changes that I will be making probably this week or so for this tier list. So be on the lookout for that. There is definitely going to be some changes as I've been seeing a little bit of other heroes or hero I would say that is completely broken, OP, stupid, and we have that. So I hope you do enjoy what I have so far of my ideas of the tier list before actually practicing and seeing some of what the more OP players are doing. Howdy, howdy, and welcome back, everybody. And today we're going to be talking about the Obelisk tier list. Needed to put this out. All right, let me first start off by saying I didn't want to do like some of my tier lists and just put the current heroes that we have in global in. I just said, you know what? Let me just put everybody in so you know who to look forward to when those heroes come back to the game. Hopefully, for you guys that are spending. All right, as usual, we're gonna start all the way at the bottom in C tier, and I'm just gonna get this right out the way because we only have one hero in C tier, and that's the green pup. And the reason why the green pup is in the C tier is not because of damage, because every hero in this game does damage. And let me establish this right now: the heroes are in the positions they are in, not because of their damage, minus some of the broken ones because they're broken. He's here because mostly his kit just does sap, and then his burst he can heal himself, which is great. However, there's heroes that can heal themselves on skill 1, skill 2, and does sap also within skill 1, skill 2, or just other things that just have better utility than what the green pup has. So unfortunately, he is C tier. Now let me say B tier I'm kind of at odds with. None of the heroes in B tier is bad. Like I don't want anybody thinking like if you got this hero, if you built this hero, if you use this hero, that these heroes are bad. I, it's just let's start off with some of our single target damage here. Like the blue water, which is ways away from us on global, but he has damage scaling on speed, which is the same as the Dark Miguel, and that's it. They don't do anything else. Okay, they do a lot of damage, great. There's plenty other heroes that do a lot of damage. That's just not enough. Same with the Red Asterisk and the Dirty Bird. They single target dealers, do a lot of damage, just not enough. They're good. Should you have them on your team? Of course. Yeah. If you built them, yes, use them. Are they the most important heroes to have? No. Then we have the Red Pup and I want to say the Red Bird. Now these two I kind of want to put up because they both have the Thorn buff, and it's been a while since I've really tested out how the thorn buff is. I might do some tests on my 9 account and just gear up my red pup a little bit, maybe make him a little bit tanky, go for one of those 2-on-1 builds to see how he fares in some of the higher dungeons in Obelisk and how that thorn buff will work probably on the boss stage specifically. Other than that, he's a striker, so that's damage on top of damage. And then the Red Bird, he has a provoke, if I'm correct, on first skill. But yeah, a provoke on first skill. Then he's got his buff extension that's on second skill, which can possibly be decent, especially on boss stages. So if there is anybody that's using him, I kind of think both him and the Red Pup might be A tier, but right now they're B tier. And then the last one that's in the B tier list is the Green Lyre. She just got a lot of buffs that she gives herself. That is great. That's fine. She does a lot of damage. Cool. But not enough utility for her to be any higher than B. So once again, B tier, not bad. If you have them, if you use them, if you want to use them, they're great heroes, but they're not what you need specifically for the obelisk. So before we get on into A tier, I just want to establish another thing. The main and most important things you're going to need for the obelisk is AoE stun and AoE provoke. this dungeon scales really high the further you go in, so it's going to be progressively harder. And I can see some of the later stages if you're not really progressed, which means if you don't have an account that's been around for the last 7 months or so, then you might not have the ability to really do much unless you are paying heavily to play the game with what you currently have. So for the most of you that are casually spending, we're talking about the people with maybe less than a $200 budget a week, and you F2P players, you're going to have a tough time getting through. So you want to be able to have certain heroes to accommodate for the lack of funds and other words that I can't think of currently. So I'm gonna go over here to the green Lumi. Now, mostly I got the green Lumi here in A tier is because she just has a lot of utility in her kit. She got death break, slows. She can do some pretty good stuff with that. I almost said pretty good damage because everybody does damage in this game. No gamer. Or the same with the blue Olivia having a AoE death break in her kit, which is good because you're gonna want death breaks, you're gonna want attack breaks, you're gonna want those kind of things to help you go along if you have these heroes, if you're using these heroes, if you built these heroes. Two heroes that I kind of think should be in S tier here is the red Mei Ling and the blue Basilica. And the reason why is so far these are the only two heroes in the game that has damage down debuff. And I believe I mentioned this in my updated version of the tier list for the Alliance Raid, which is in my Advanced Alliance Raid guide. Hopefully that video came out before this one. If not, oh well. We have here the light Johan, who also has attack breaks. He has a provoke in his kit. It's a single target, so AoE is really what you're shooting for. Single target is still fine, but AoE is where you really shooting for. The same as with Zyra, who has a stun in her kit as well as an AoE attack break, which is great. You want those kind of things. Then we have the red Johan, who can be self sufficient. He can buff the team, but if you build in him as your main damage dealer, he can keep himself alive and you can like really go full squishy on him and just like glass cannon and just use his burst and keep him alive that way possibly. I mean, maybe pair it up with something like the blue Nessa just in case he does die, but it's fine. It's like he got the fortify buff which keeps him alive even if he's at critical. Now, for what some of you might not have thought, I got the green bird here in A tier, and the reason is he has a double provoke in his kit. It's single target, but it can be useful. Some bosses can be provoked, some bosses can be stunned, and he has attack reduction, which is the third thing that I didn't mention that I'm mentioning now that is important for you to have. But we'll talk about that more as we get up into the S tier. And Red Olive, mostly because she does have her second skill that can give her a bit of self sustain, so she can keep herself alive a little bit long. The one that I have on my Lucilica account is really tanky. She does okay damage, but not enough because I don't have any good attack or any attack percent or flat attack for that matter gear period for her. So unfortunately, I have to build her as a tank, which kind of works out in my favor a little bit because she's able to take a hit in front line and tank for me really well. So that's great. Then we have the Green Olivia. Green Olivia providing turn bar reduction, which is very useful, as well as if you do use her burst, she kills something, she can get another turn, which can also be useful for you. And then on top of that, she has the AoE slow, which slow debuff is not the greatest, but can garner you more turns if you run in a turn cycling team, which she is like the headliner for that team, generally, in most cases. Then we got Blue Helga, who has a bit of self sustain as well. her damage is her main thing, and she has sap as an addition. It's just you've been using her. You know, Blue Helga's pretty much A tier all around in this game, no matter where she's at. So there's enough said there. Then we have the Dark Helga. Now the main reason she's up here in A tier is because she can attack something on her second skill, I believe it is. No, her first skill and her burst. She can attack, and if something dies, she gets another turn. So that is critically beneficial for you if you were to build her and use her for this. Garnering extra turns is very useful for your team. And then she has the resistance debuff, which doesn't really matter as much. I mean, there's not too many instances where I see like enemies resist like that, but maybe in this dungeon later on, maybe they start resisting a little bit more. AoE resist might not be bad. You might want to use her for that little bit of utility. But really, it's mostly just because she can garner an extra turn if she kills something, which can be really beneficial in lining up damage. We got the red Joshua here, who has in his first skill an attack bar reduction, which can be good when you're doing a turn cycling team. Plus his second skill, which gives you the attack buff plus the invincibility, which can help in surviving and dealing out additional damage, especially if you don't have heroes like the Green Arslan, or just Arslan so far, because we don't have the red one yet. And the light Olivia, which none of you guys on global will have anyway, but she does have an attack buff AoE on her second skill, which we'll get to in a moment. Then we have green Astrid, mostly just because she can attack on first skill, and if she kills something, she gets another turn, which, just like I said before, garnering those extra turns, just like the Dark Helga, is going to be beneficial as you get further and further along. Then she can steal buffs, which also can help when dealing with enemies that might have an attack buff that probably will one shot your team, because the waves get harder and they're able to kill you fast too as you progress through. And we got the Dark Knight here with debuff extension, good sap, and then overall solid hero for AoE and damage. He doesn't have the best utility, but he does have something. He has some form of debuffing that other heroes don't have, that I would say in the B tier. So that's why he's A tier. Then we have the Light Mei Ling. So for you guys that have completed the extreme storyline, Light Mei Ling is just one of the best heroes for sustaining your team. All she need to do is S1 and heal your team. And I mean, with her S2, she can give a regen buff up for your team as well. But S1, she just heals her team based off her attack. So you just want her to have a little bit of attack and to be somewhat tanky as well, so she doesn't die, because it's her utility that makes her as good as she is. And we got Blue Charlotte here, who's just a great support. She can heal your team, she can give you a health regen, plus she can sustain herself with her first skill. By every time she attacks, she gets herself a shield, and that's helpful. Then we have the red Rosanna, who's not in global yet, but she gives a shield on her second skill, and that's what just makes her that much useful here, is just having that extra shield. And because shields are powerful, man, mitigating damage, so you want something like that. Then we got the light Vanessa, who has the invincibility on skill 2 on top of an attack buff that's helpful. And then she can heal your team. Like, her burst can heal, and she just got some pretty good utility in her kit. All right, so now that we're done with the A tier, let's move on to the S tier. Now, the S tier are the heroes that either do the most when it comes to turn bar manipulation. They have they have AoE stuns or AoE provokes, or they just have some utility that there's no other heroes in the game that has, and or they just turn bar boosters, because all turn bar boosters are S tier. So let's start over here with the red Chrome. Now, Red Chrome, what he gives you is he has a burst that if he kills, he can get an additional turn, which is cool if you build him for damage. But his main thing is his first skill with the Wither debuff, which is a debuff that is a heal block. So for those boss stages where they got heals and everything, and you need to mitigate that healing, he's the only hero in the game currently that can do so. So that's why he's in S tier. Red Helga, her burst can give you an AoE stun, but she does have an AoE death break on her second, and then her first skill has an attack break on it. So she has a lot of good utility in her kit. You can build her for damage if you want. You can go hybrid damage. You can go full utility and full tank mode and go with the utility. And she is a warrior, if I'm correct here. Yeah, she's a warrior, so that means you can get that attack break off on the enemy's turn if you got enough warrior gear on her. Then we have the red Lumi, who comes equipped with an attack break. Don't have her yet. Maybe once I get her, we'll see if it's actually an attack break or if it's a damage down, because the wording for these skills don't they don't make sense, but we're just gonna go with the attack break for now. But if it is a damage down, that makes her even more bustedly broken. But most heroes got attack break. But she does has an AoE attack bar reduction and a chance to inflict a stun all in this one skill. That's her skill 2. So she's just brokenly OP, powerfully stupid. I might even opt to put her in the broken tier because she seems like she deserves that more than just being in the S tier. Then she has an AoE defense break, which she can ignore defense if she lands as critical. She definitely wants a lot of crit, but we're not talking about how you build her. We're just talking about what she brings to the table and why is it so good. Then the same thing with the blue Lumi, having attack bar reduction, which is pretty beneficial with her AoE attack bar reduction. And she's the only hero, I believe, that has a speed slow on skill 1. And since she's a warrior, she can get this off on the enemy's turn. And even once you skill her up some, she gets a lot of burst gauge off of her first skill. So her getting this off on an enemy's turn can garner you a tremendous amount of burst for your team later on down the line. So the Blue Lumi is definitely a stellar option to pick up. A Green 9, who has also some attack bar reduction. He has self-sustain, and he's a striker with a lot of damage. So you can't go wrong with having the Green 9. Granted, they bring him back into the game. Then we have the Blue 9, which we can all get from the Alliance shop, who has some self-sustain on top of an AoE provoke. And that AoE provoke is going to be great. And he's a warrior, which he can continue to give himself self-sustain on the enemy's turn. And we have our guardian here. I believe the first guardian we have for the S tier, and that is the green water. Now, I know in a lot of my other tier list, I've talked about how bad he is and how I kind of think he's just mostly something for PvP, because when I look at the PvP meta for the Korea, I see him a lot, especially lately. I've been seeing him a lot more in the Korean PvP meta. But now he finally got the dungeon that he deserved. And this is something that I've been talking about like on my streams and in Discord about if we ever get a tower dungeon, if it's done something similar to how most towers are in other games, he is going to be a really good hero to have. And yes, he is. He has self-sustain on top of AoE provoke, and then on his burst he can boost turn bar. So that can be win, lose, draw just off of his skills. So I think he's probably one of the best heroes to have in your team composition. So if you thought about you wasn't going to pick him up before, you might want to reconsider that option just because of the Obelisk dungeon. And the best part is, since he's a guardian, he can get a bunch of damage reduction. So it makes him super tanky on top of forcing everything to look at him while your team cleans up. So that's something you want to look into. Then we got the Red Lapis, another one that is like really good, that has a kit that's pretty much in his own league. Him being able to debuff the crit of the enemy, crit rate and crit damage is just enough in its own to make him as powerful as he is. And that's just the red Lapis. I won't even go anymore. That's just broken. That's just broken. He's the only hero that can do it in the game. So then we got the green Aleph, who's also a pretty tanky one. She is our other guardian that is on the list. And I like her. I thought she was going to be really good for the raid, and really believe she is. I'm just waiting to finish my contract on my 9 account so I can get her and build her. But she has her first skill that can feel the action gauge of the hero with the highest attack. So if you have a slow, high damage hero, when she goes, she moves, she can feel the action gauge for them, and that just helps you get their turn faster. Then she can generate a shield for everybody. Whoever got the lowest HP, she heals not only herself, she heals them as well. It's like, what? Big girl heals? Yes, let's do that. So that makes her really helpful at sustaining your team later on down the line. Then if you use her burst, she can do damage and grant a regen buff, which I don't really think is the most important period to have usage of. It's mostly just her second and her first skill. And if you actually put skill ups into her, you get some good burst gauge out of it because burst gauge is important. Then we got the green Mei Ling, who is a turn bar booster. She has the highest on base without any skill ups. So we're just gonna go with she's a turn bar booster. She does damage to do her turn bar boost, so there is other things that you can do with her, and she's a striker, so you don't necessarily have to build her to be the fastest. You can build her to be a damage dealer and push her team at the back. She can be the slowest, and you can go full damage, and she can push her team from the back end rather than the front end if that's how you're going to use her. Then we got Green Basilica. If you saw anything that I have done or have shown or anything about the Green Basilica, she's just one of the best in high burst damage heroes in the game. She might need to be in broken tier. I don't think she's broken, but I think she's just really powerful, powerful than most heroes, just because she has an attack that can scale off the enemy's max HP and can easily one shot some of the earlier floors or just get those healths down so far so fast that it doesn't take long to finish the battle. And that's what she does. Blue Nessa is important because she's going to keep your team alive. Somebody dies and you got conditions that involve in your team staying alive. She's going to bring them back alive, especially heroes that you don't have built that you have to bring in. She's just gonna support and carry you there. Chrome, turn bar booster. Enough said. Moving on. Fram, really important to have your Fram. She is one of your free to play options for AoE stun. You pretty much don't have anything else unless you're paying for heroes. If you think about it, like you got AoE provokes that you can get, but AoE stun outside of buying a hero with your crystals or just going crazy and getting the blue Sophie, which we'll talk about once we get to the broken tier. Um, she's just your stellar option there. She's a guardian, so she can mitigate a lot of damage. Fram is just really good. Plus, she has that uh, first skill that can give you the death break, which can just give you more damage inherently. Then we have the blue Astra. I know you might be thinking, blue Astra, why she's up in S tier? Alright, if you have her max skilled, her burst skill, you can literally lock a boss so it never gets a turn. So you can run her in a turn cycling team where the boss will never move, never gets a turn, but it requires skill investment. So for someone that may have her, that might have built her, if you go full investing into her as your main dealer, then she's gonna garner you easy boss fights where you can just practically cheese it. So that's just why she's up here. Then we got the Red Lyre. Red Lyre got turn bar reduction, plus she has a skill one that can give you a death break. That's lots of utility. Really useful. Good. Then we got Green Charlotte, who you should know what she does. I shouldn't have to go over Green Charlotte. Shouldn't have had to go over Blue Vanessa either, but Green Charlotte, good shield, lots of heals, great. Moving on. We got the Red Nessa. Red Nessa, same thing we've been talking about for the longest. I mean, the Holy Trinity is important going into this fight anyway. They can be critically useful. I mean, if you one person that have built the Blue Charlotte, she can be as great. She can be good there too. Too, but I didn't put her in S tier just because she don't quite have the luster that these three ladies have up here. But Red Nessa, definitely love it. Keeps your team alive. Maybe you don't need to have any other healer support if you did build your Red Nessa as your main healer. And if you get your turn orders correctly, you should be great there. But keep in mind, she doesn't pair well with turn cycling teams. You really need to have your team optimized for her speed. Dark Rosanna, turn bar booster, mitigates damage. Turn bar booster, can do damage. Turn bar booster. Moving on. Blue Pup. All right, Blue Pup, he has turn bar reduction. That's pretty much the thing there. Turn bar reduction, so he can work well with a turn cycling team, or just as one of your extra damage dealers and get you through some of the ways. Because his turn bar reduction is on skill 2, unlike how the Red Lyrae requires you to use her burst for her turn bar reduction, which will be more beneficial once you get to the boss. That's kind of how that is. And AoE. AoE. All right, broken tier. Finally, we get the means to the end. The broken tier. Now, the reason why these heroes are in the broken tier is either because they're Arslan or because they are really expensive heroes that make sense because they cost so much, they should be broken. I'm going to be completely honest, I don't know how good the Light Sophie is, but she costs 3 million renown. And if you have any experience with the Green Lapis, who also costs 3 million renown, he's brokenly OP, powerfully stupid. So I have no doubt that she's in that category. We have the Blue Yashua, who I can't wait to get released in this game. Once you put skill investment into him, he's literally the best turn bar booster in the game. And it's not because how much turn bar he gives you, it's not because he has like super utility. It's the fact that he's the only turn bar booster that's a sniper. So he's with sniper gear and good turn bar boosting. He's going to give you the most burst gauge that you can possibly get in the game. And that's just broken because no other hero does that. So yeah. And then he has the AoE strip on his turn bar boost, which doesn't do any damage. So he can strip and not touch the enemy, which is perfect. Perfect. Then of course Green Lapis, because broken multipliers, insane damage, and then he has a lot of self-sustain. Blue Aleph, broken multipliers, insane damage. Whenever she comes back and we can buy her again, definitely $45 worth spending. Light Olivia, most expensive hero in the game, brokenly, stupidly OP busted. If you have her, chances are you're brokenly stupid, OP busted, and you just damage your way through this game anyway. Lastly, the final hero on the list, the Blue Sophie. Now, I put her in here because she is what this content is meant for. If you have the money to get her, buy her. She is meant for the Obelisk. She is hands down the number one best hero for this. She has double AoE stun in her kits on her skill 2 and on her burst. You are not going to have another hero that does what she does, and she does it well. And she's a striker. She's a striker. You can build her for damage. You could opt and go for a fast tanky build to just have her used as utility. She pretty much replaces Fram. She's like a better Fram, and to some degree. And then she can give you an attack break on skill 1. So it's like she comes equipped with a lot of utility in her kit that she doesn't necessarily have to be your next damage dealer you build. She can just be super fast and super tanky and just there for the stuns, and that's it. and she's gonna carry you through this content, like literally making fights so much easier for me while going through the obelisk. So this is my tier list. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, make sure you smash that like button. If you didn't, there's a button for you guys. Also, let me know what you think about the tier list. Do you think someone should be higher? Do you think someone should be lower? Let's talk about that in the comment section below. Make sure y'all join us on Discord so we can keep the conversation going. Also, all of my tier listing guides, because I had people leaving comments about, like, why don't you do a tier list for this? I've done plenty of them, but all my tier listing guides will be in the tier list and guides section on Discord. So if you're not on Discord, you're not going to be able to access my tier list and guides outside of looking at these videos. And I generally update these things frequently ish. So make sure you subscribe if you're new here. Turn those post notifications on so you can be the first to see my content when it goes live. And this is your host, Gamer Dude 2088, signing out saying much love. God bless. Deuces.